to the Soul to Scene podcast, episode 18. I'm Andy Cooper from RMS Motoring, and today I'm joined by just Ross today.
Just myself.
Just ourselves today. Ross, look, today's going to be a quick one. We're straight in, no kissing here. Unlike getting propositioned at the desk on the Belfast to Liverpool ferry, if you're reading the ferries thread on RMS, I've never had this before, but apparently if there's not enough cabins, you could be standing at the desk getting your key for your cabin, and somebody will come up to you and say, here, sure, there's only one of you and you have 3 spare beds, could I bunk in with you? I know. I think that was the beauty of COVID. They couldn't do that, but now it's back to shared cabins again, and the professional drivers, of course, you truckers out there, professional drivers maybe are happy enough to share cabins. Myself, maybe going over, I'm all right. I'd rather have my own.
Maybe not so much. It's funny. There's a few drivers I know very well. They're the cleanest, most like hygiene freak guys because they're living in the cabs. But on the flip side out there, one of my first ever jobs after I left school and all my friends went to college, I worked. I'll not name them, but it was a local roll-on, roll-off ferry company, and there was 2 or 3 of the drivers would have been in on a Sunday and back then the Saturday morning, and whether they had voided showers or baths or everything all week, you could literally smell it coming off the boat. It was hideous. So sharing them with a big greasy trucker isn't my idea of a good trip away on a boat.
And like that's just such a stereotype. But you look at some of the trucks and the truck shows that we have here. Like, trucks are a big thing, and the big Scanias and all the rest, and the standard that some of the guys turn the stuff out in is just incredible.
It's lethal, so it is. And again, it's the tang from over here does get slagged off, but they're young fellas who are spending ransoms of money on pimped up lorries. I was there myself, not quite to the same level as those guys were when I had the contract with Northern Ireland Water. I had my own big lorry, and it was LED lights everywhere. It was like Ballylumford on wheels. but yeah, the money these guys spend on it is fierce. It's great to see.
Oh, fantastic! I just don't want to share a cabin with you. That's all. Don't take that the wrong way. I just realised I dug myself a hole at the very start of the podcast. Look, as I say, a quick one today because I hopefully have a new member joining the Cooper family very soon, and so just squeezing this in before I vanish for a minute or two. It is totally unrelated. I am selling the GT4. It's no great secret, but and I did get the phone call from Lotus last week to say your build date is still going to be in July and your Amira will be ready for collection from the factory in August. So GT4 has to make way for that. And I was out with Mr. Curry, Graham Curry, taking photos there on Sunday. So took some photos. I've been out and I thought, you know what? If we've done some video on the electric cars, I'll do a wee bit of a video on the GT4 as well, because I don't know, like if I have something that's decent, people might be interested in, it's a good way to share it. Photos,
and
article,
it's also
RMS, video, all the rest.
And it's good to have memories like that as well, because, it's, I'm sure you're the same as the rest of us. You look back to see different cars you've had, trying to find photographs and that there often, but when you can have a video of like enjoying what's arguably one of the pinnacles of modern cars on the road today.
Stop blowing smoke.
I blew enough smoke after that trip you took me out in the time we were at Kirkstone. It's honestly, for me, it's the pinnacle of modern cars for both the track and on the road. It's beautiful at what it does.
So I now have to endure the sales process. That's going to be the next 2 or 3 months. I know. But you know what? It could be fine. It could be absolutely fine. So
it will be. It will be.
It'll be grand. So into things like taking off my plate and doing all that stuff and photos and the right of spec and all that sort of carry on. You get out of the way of it.
You do, but the beauty about things like that there nowadays is, I think going back with everything that's happened in the last couple of years, it really is a buyer's market at the minute. as soon as people say GT4, they know it's not going to be just like a run of the mill random bundle of shit that's coming out. Like anybody who's had a GT4 knows what they've bought. They know what they're looking for. And when you're throwing up, even a relatively simple spec list, even though yours is, if I'm right, is a pretty well loaded car.
Mm-hmm.
But even putting up GT4, anybody who's putting that in their search bar kind of knows what they're looking for. And I think you're kind of lucky because most of the tire kickers and test pilots won't even be in the, they won't be there looking for a GT4.
Hopefully. And
hopefully.
I wonder with the internet and all the rest, are buyers a lot more informed now anyway? They're at, they've been on the forums and they're considering all faults and things like that. You see people, I see it in RMS. A great example is like the 2-liter diesel, like a 320D, 520D from like the early 2010s, something like that. And people know, right, they have timing chain problems, and that's because of forums and stuff like that. There, the people are sort of clued into issues that cars have now, and but I think that means that buyers are also very, very fussy, and should it have full history, and it should have the right tires, and it should have this and have that.
There's definitely a bit of that there. There's no doubt. Like again, a dub shed. I had a guy came over to me, and basically was offering me money to take my M3 home with him, but he was a nerd. He knew every bit about, the tires, the spacers, the fact I don't have original seats in it. I had an Venturi intake. He was able to go through, and whilst a lot of those things are visual, there's, I think people do get down that there kind of rabbit hole of being very, this is what it should be like, and this is what I expect. It certainly is a lot of it. I know that the last couple of times when I went to go and buy cars, I kind of had more knowledge on them than the salesman who was trying to sell it to me. So, really it was just a box ticking exercise with the options, with the extras I wanted on it, because I did go in very well informed, because, I had researched what I was looking for, and there's no doubt forums, YouTube, things like that there are where we're all getting our information nowadays.
100%. And it's actually somewhere that I found is a wee bit lacking on the Porsche side, is that unlike the Yaris or my Lotus, so there's the Porsche GB forums, and there's Renlist, and there's a few American forums, but the guys I haven't found the same depth of knowledge that you would find on M3 cutters, for example, or something like that for an M3. But there's always the good marks of forums. In fact, that's how I remember I started RMS. I remember Corsa Sport, really randomly. I know you see it smiling here. Corsa Sport was a fantastic forum, and loads of my mates were into courses, and it was the place just to find every last piece of information. I was like, forums are just so handy, and you don't get that with a Facebook group or something like that, because
you really don't.
So I was even pricing around insurance for the Yaris there, and I went on I was checking RMS obviously, and then checking the GR Yaris forums as well, just to get ideas of where everyone was using. And it's just a good way to save a few quid, or people have experience. And again, it's the informed thing as well.
Very, very much so. And again, you say you don't get much of the information through some of the Porsche forums and that there, but, it could be part of the thing that we talked about 3 or 4 podcasts ago. Are Porsches like an older man's car? Somebody who's maybe not as enthusiastic for some of the Porsches. However, it goes back to GT4s are special, 997 Carrera 4Ss, things that are a wee bit different from the norm will definitely probably have a wee bit more of an enthusiast following, where people will talk about them a wee bit more, as opposed to the kind of, normal out of the box Porsches and that there.
I wonder as well, and maybe not just as much with the GT4, but with other stuff, people are all, they're saying at the moment, price of fuel, we're going to get hit again. See with the latest oil sanctions on Russia, they're talking about, right, we're going to get another hit in fuel. And you see people on the forum, there was a guy there, and he was between buying a 320D and a 340i, and everyone was like, it was interesting, the discussion, because there was the people on the fence saying, well, look, we've just been through 2 years of COVID. Life's too short to drive a 320D.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flip side is, well, with bills to pay and stuff like that, and you buy something that'll do 50 to the gallon versus do 30 to the gallon.
Very true. Yeah, and it really is one of those things. Like there, I was today. I'm through just over a quarter tank of diesel. It cost me 130 quid to fill the X5 this morning, and that was heading from Downpatrick down to Tato Park and back up again. I'm through. What's that? 20, probably about 40, 45 pounds worth of diesel.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive if you were doing that there 3 or 4 days a week. That kind of running, but I know what I'd rather be in. But then we're talking about the price of fuel. I jumped in the M3 and I just took it out for a drive one day last week or the week before, and drove over to the guy in the forum who sells the 99 RON at his Lochbricklin station.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper to put 99 RON, which is only available in like 2 stations in Northern Ireland. It was cheaper to fill the M3 with that there than it was to fill diesel. Like 99 was cheaper than diesel. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's mad. That's absolutely mad. Well, hopefully it doesn't hurt the sales of Porsches in the next 3 or 4 weeks. That's what I'm hoping.
Definitely not.
Apart from that, went on the RMS run. Crow and Ben did an absolutely sterling job, along with Jamie and Hallidays and all the rest, in organising that. That was a great trip up from sort of Glengormley up the coast, and I finished at Hallidays and had a barbecue. And I think those guys are now, they're getting a bit of a regular meet going on in Mollusk, well, sort of between Mollusk and Temple Patrick. So I think the first, I think there's one, is it maybe this weekend coming? You check the forum anyway, but absolutely brilliant. It's great to get a run out and catch up with people. We had fantastic weather and all the rest. So if anyone's interested in meeting up, I'm up in the air. Can I make it or not? Really depends on my personal situation.
It looked fantastic though. Was there? I counted roughly a good 20 or 30 cars were on it. Is that right?
Oh, at least, and then just a great random selection of stuff that only RMS can bring. Like a Z3M Coupe and a Noble. Like stuff like that. There's just class altogether. So it was good fun.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get. You'll learn soon enough when number 1 comes along, but when number 2 and number 3, when they've all got their different way gymnastics or football or whatever else is on, my Sunday was unfortunately there's no hope I was getting up near it.
And I also unfortunately had to learn what ISOFIX is. A thing that I've seen on spec lists and ignored for years. I now know how a flipping baby seat base goes in.
It makes all the difference.
Unbelievable. Anyway, also this weekend, Top Gear's back. Which I cannot wait, because the Amira should be on it. I don't know if it's on this Sunday. So Sunday the 5th of June, I presume at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock on BBC One, something like that. The trailer looks hilarious. I think they're in the States. They're riding a big RV. They're doing drag racing, all sorts of fun stuff. But I think Paddy and Flintoff and Chris Harris are they're very watchable,
I agree with you. I think they're the best combination. As good as Clarkson and May and Hammond was, I really do feel that the whole kind of vibe that the 3 current presenters have taken into, and it's took them a while to come around to it. Some may say a wee bit the same as the Soul to Scene podcast. It took a while to get somebody as good as me, and
still taking us away small.
But those 3 guys are like, they're funny, they're witty, and it's not just, or certainly in the last season, wasn't just the same old, rehashed Top Gear formula. I'm really for. I've been a big Chris Harris fan for years. I know a lot of people didn't really like him, but the man's driving skill by itself earns him a place and whatever else. When you see him doing his, the challenges and that there, even on Top Gear magazine, on the wee snippets and all they do, I think he's brilliant. And like, I spoke to you about how difficult it must be to drive a car normally and talk somewhat enthusiastically, like you've been doing on your YouTube videos, like the whole level of respect you're bound to have for what all those guys do, but especially him when he's hooning a car sideways and cars worth hundreds of thousands of pounds, driving them literally like he stole them.
Totally, like when he used to do his drive series, which he was 10 years ahead of Carfax. Well, not quite 10 years, but that sort of thing ahead of Carfaction and Harry's Garage and all the rest. Chris Harris was doing it 7-8 years ago with the Drive channel with just a couple of guys, and the quality of videos that they put out, and they're always at awesome circuits, Portimao and Portugal or wherever else, doing loads of amazing filming, and how those guys could do it, on a 2-man show. How does Harry Metcalf? I think it's Harry Metcalf and his missus and they just literally fire the videos together themselves, and the stuff's fantastic. Because Top Gear's obviously you've got the BBC behind you, like it's a totally different.
Yeah,
scale.
there's a few pound behind it that way, huh?
Absolutely, but no, looking forward to. There's nothing like you get a bit of Sunday night dread before the week, and sit down in Top Gear, and you put the phone down, a cup of tea or a beer or whatever else, and just chill out for an hour.
Zone out for an hour. Yeah, it's hard to beat it.
Hard to whack. So yes, I'm hoping the Emira is on. I know Top Gear have had an Emira, and there is also a press embargo to the 7th of June, which is kind of close to the first episode of Top Gear. So that's what the chat is. But
so it's looking like it could be very good.
So look, that is literally the crack. So I could have a full house in an empty garage. is what I'm looking down the barrel of at the moment, and it's pretty exciting, to be honest. But anything else you've seen yourself, Ross? What's the crack?
The crack. Well, a couple of different things. I saw going through one of the WhatsApp chats last week that we have another RMS car raffle winner, one of our very own, Mr. Burns, Mr. Christopher Burns.
Chris Burns. What did he win? And who did he win it with? And what's the crack?
From what I have seen, it was Dream Car Giveaways, which are putting out some serious heavy metal. It was one of the Megane, like R3. I'm not really au fait with them all, but it was one of the Renault Megane Sports. Something that would probably be right down Chris's street.
Just him with his. We search here now on Dream Car Giveaways. Right, I see it here now. So, Renault Megane RS 300 trophy and £1,000. Is that? I don't think that's liquid yellow. It's like a flat yellow. It's awesome. Eddie and RMS has a beautiful one. They are fantastic.
Oh, they're cracking cars. So they are. There's another friend of mine has a black one, and again, I was at the wee Cars and Coffee thing this weekend in Newcastle, and he took me a run out in it, and they're serious scalping those cars.
Do you know? I start these podcasts and I think I have nothing to talk about. And see, looking at this Renault Sport, the random shit I'm going to come off with. Renault Sport are no more. Renault Sport are being folded into Alpine.
Okay.
So, which I think they're both based in Dieppe anyway, in north on the coast there, North France. But the Renault Sport is done with, and then I think Alpine are going to make. I think they're going to make an electric sports cars or something like that. So I would say hold on to your Megane trophy. That's probably the last of them. And we're getting into the world of lasts now. It's mad.
Yeah. Funny, do you know something? I think we spoke about this here, again, several podcasts ago. I've only ever had one Jap car in all my time, and I've never had a French car. Don't know if that's good or bad.
Renault Sports are fantastic. They are just brilliant. So I've driven a 182. I've driven like a 197. I've driven like a RS 250 Megane. Driven a Clio Williams on track. Absolutely great crack too. I'm trying to think. That's loads of Renault stuff. Like Peugeot 205, although I always been quite hard on the Peugeot 205 because I think they feel a bit old, but 205 GTI, good crack.
I think the 205s for me, I think they look really cool. So again, there's a couple of local guys here, one in Crossgar, and he still has his 205, the 1.9 GTI Terrence casement, and it's just every time you see it out, the car's just on point. Like, it's a beautiful looking car. It's got the pepper pot alloys, lower suspension. You know, it's just, for me, it's what like a hot hatch car should look like. Because again, that was the hot hatch cars when I was growing up. There was Nova SRs. But they were just the 205 just looked a wee bit cooler, especially, you know, the ones when it had the wee rally lights in the bumper and stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely awesome. They did really oddball. Like you could get a Peugeot 205 XS, which was like a dual carb 1400 thing, which was a real roarty wee car if you couldn't afford a GTI, and then you GTI it up, but it was actually pretty quick. I remember, I'm trying to think what French stuff that I've owned. I've had a couple of VTS Saxos, great, but I bought a 106 GTI in like that wine red color from Pablo, and I loved that wee car. It was just class. It looked fantastic. It was just, those wee cars just look perfectly in proportion. They are wee. The pedal box is like you put one foot down, you get all three pedals at once, job, you know. but there's something so fun and lively, and they're always like 950 kilos, and like the cock the back wheel on hard corner and all, you know, they just have so much character. They obviously brake as well.
But it's funny again, you know, and this is us probably showing our age a wee bit, but when you look at those cars that we grew up with, like, they were proper small, sporty, hot hatches, you know, 140, 150 horsepower in something weighed less than, you know, I said 1,000 kilos. And they were just like wee pocket rockets. Like, when you look at a small car nowadays, you know, when you look at the 106 size cars, everything is so much bigger. So, like, you know, I really do think that when we were growing up and when we had those smaller cars, that the hot hatches and that there, it really was the pinnacle of time for us growing up. You know, it was
golden. I don't know if it's golden era or if it's rose tinted glasses, because we also had the debate. I don't know if you saw the thread in RMS about when was the best era for, you know, for cars. Was it the heyday of the early 2000s when it was, you know, Subaru versus Mitsubishi on the four-wheel drive turbo stuff, and then you had all the cool hatches and you had VTECs everywhere and everyone wanted to have a Civic Type R, and, you know, and I did argue. I was like, well, you have the likes of the Megane Trophy, GR Yaris, you know, and all that. But you have a fair point. My Yaris is what, over 1,200 kilos, you know, compared to 900 kilos of Citroen AX GT. You know?
And that's a Yaris. And, you know, again, you park it beside an E46 M3, and they're not dissimilar in size. You've got a very similar wheelbase. So they have, obviously, the M3's got more hanging over it. And the Yaris was, you know, that was the whole YouTube video that came out at the start, was the Yaris trouncing an E46 M3. And it showed how, you know, 20 years down the line, how much things have kind of moved and improved from, you know, what's the Yaris 1.3 engine, is it?
1.6 turbo, yeah.
1.6, sorry. You know, but a 1.6 turbo four-wheel drive car, three-cylinder going up against a 3.2 six-cylinder S54 engine, you know, and just showing it a clean set of tires on every corner.
You see, and then I think I went on and said, well, what about Fiesta ST? Great, you know, great small car. Up GTI, is it, what's the fast Twingo? Is there an RS Twingo or something like that there?
The way up, I actually love the way up GTI because they are properly tiny, but they're cool, so they are.
Yeah, very cool. And you can get an E-up, I think, as well, the electric one. So yeah, so there's, like, I understand some of the character is blunted out of the cars because they have to carry so much weight, but they have to carry weight because people don't want to get killed like they did in Honda CRXs back in the day or something like that, you know?
Yeah, very much so.
So that's
it's funny, you know, talking about back in the day. Did you see the thread that was up on RMS? It was that Tavares, their YouTube page where those American guys, and they basically, I can't remember. Let me see what the title was called. It was we imported 3 terrible sports cars from around the globe. One of them was Charisma's TVR Cerbera. The Americans call it so many different things.
The gold one that
yes, that was the max power cover car of our generation.
I think I actually have seen that car in the flesh back when I had less rings on the trunk. You know what I mean?
Do you know something that I did? I saw that car at Max Power Live. You come back, it could be 20 years ago, but actually it must be at least that.
Jamie at Charisma.
Jamie at Charisma, because part of the whole thing, it was where they brought them in was the 25-year US rule. And I put a post up that I was saddened and shocked and delighted in equal measures about, because that car for me, you know, when we talk about the 106s, the VTSs, the things like that there, which were the cars that we were growing up with, Max Power was a magazine that really did kind of define our generation. Well, at an FHM, but whilst we're talking about cars here, but that TVR for me was like the epitome of everything that was cool about modifying. You know, it was big wheels when nobody else was really doing big wheels. It was custom fiberglass bodywork when the only other person doing that was Rocco. It was bespoke leather. It was everything was just to the last degree on it. And when you look at it now, I described it as like a dog dragging its arse, because the suspension either has rotted away or whatever's happened to it, but the back end of it is down, the nose is up, the fiberglass is maybe evaporating. It's such a shame to see that like that car, which was just, you know, back for us, for me certainly, it was just the epitome of what a show car was. And they put it up against it's an E30 with like a 540, the V8 engine in it, and there was an RX-7, which is one of my all-time favorite cars, the RX-7s. But that TVR, which was, you know, the British grunt, you know, it was a big engined, high performance V8 car, and it just looked like a bag of turd.
Do you know, I'm thinking if we're sitting here now and thinking, right, all these great classics from the back in the day, would I want a time machine to go back and keep one of the cars that I had? No, probably not, because probably whatever I had back then had high mileage on it, and it was, you know, and I didn't have the budget to spend on it like I would now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and worse if I started modifying it, because I'd been modifying it to like 2003 spec and putting all sorts of shit on it. That's not the car you want.
It's not the car you want.
2003 Andy Cooper, step away from the fiberglass and the bolt-on wing and the neon lights and all the rest, you know.
No, but, the neon washer jets, do you remember those? Flipping
neon
disasters.
Taps and all. Yep.
Yeah. Although undercar neons are making a real big comeback, because there's quite a few guys I've seen at car shows and, you know, just even driving around are really, you know, undercar neons are coming back in. And 21, 22-year-old me who thought it was Class N and had it, and the MR2 I had in that there, 42-year-old me is sitting going, I wonder would I get away with it in my van?
Please do it. I want to see your X5 in full blue neon hovercraft mode. Nothing would make me happier.
Man, it's one of the kind of, you know, it's one of those sad realizations that when you've got the money to do these silly things that you wanted to do 20 years ago, you just can't cut it. You know, man, I love my M3. I absolutely adore it. Driving it is something else. But every now and then, I sit and go, Ross, you're a 40-year-old man driving a yellow M3.
But your M3 is different. Like you can make that shape of that generation of car. It is timeless. You know, it's back when BMW started putting the big arches back in those cars and all the rest of it. They are fantastic. So just back to the TVR. Just wondering if Phil Delgetti's listening to us, because Phil, you missed out on the Charisma TVR. You're collecting all the other TVRs, but you missed the big one.
It's you just need to watch that video.
I'm sure he's rolling his eyes at this, because he has just bought did you see his beautiful Tuscan? Absolutely stunning. So
something else. It's just fantastic. So it is.
Yeah, it's unreal. So we like Trevor's, but the US will love them, as you say. The 25-year rule, they're all going to get sucked out of the country, just like all the lovely stuff out of Japan has now as well.
Mm-hmm. Like R34s, like the price was crazy already, but they've just gone even more ludicrous. Same as the P1 Subarus, the 22Bs, if you could still get them. Now with the 25-year rule has been lifted, the price is just gone brutal.
It's mad, absolutely mad.
One of the other things that popped up in news this week is: have you seen the new DeLorean?
I have not seen the new DeLorean.
Okay, Google it. It's called DeLorean Alpha 5.
Does it require you to have an enormous government grant and a big bag of Colombian marching powder involved?
It's coming out as an EV first.
Which makes sense. Who's behind it? What platforms it on? So it's the DeLorean Alpha 5?
Yeah, it's called DeLorean Alpha 5.
I'm looking at it here. I'm going to post this in the show notes. That looks like imagine someone sat on a Volvo S90 and it was a coupe and it had gull wing doors. It's really random.
That's actually it's a random. There's from different angles. It looks there's one angle which looks kind of like one of those Mercedes AMG GTs that's been stretched out and squashed a wee bit. The one with the gull wing doors up. There's a photograph of it from its side profile where it looks like one of those big weird French like 508, whatever they may be. I can't even. There's that many different numbers and names in them. They're keeping the louvered back window and the gull wing doors as a kind of hark back to. As a hark back, yeah, you've just fired up the photograph now. That to me looks like one of those big, weird Peugeots.
This looks absolutely awesome, and of course, the gull wing doors. So it's actually a Tesla Model X because it's electric and gull wing, but it has that sort of the gull wing just gives you that great access. I wonder if it flaps the wings, like a bird, like the Model X does.
Which is one of the cool things again in the notes. They talk about not just the 0 to 60 time, but they've done the 0 to 88 time for the DeLorean, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's very cool. 100 could come. Oh, so it's all could do this, could do that. 100 kilowatt hour battery. So well, do you know what? The original DMC-12 was not a great car. It had shitty Renault V6, crap gearbox. It was
boat suspension.
Yeah, and look, it could have been built better. That wasn't the fault, I don't think, of us up north necessarily, because Northern Ireland didn't have any sort of vehicle production skills back then as well. But still a great story. Don't tell me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
No, funny, the Cars and Coffee event I was at on Saturday there, I was up in Newcastle, and it was raising funds for that Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, which is a brilliant, a brilliant organisation. But there was a DeLorean down at it, and even though we all know they weren't the best made cars, there's still something about them. You still go over and have a look at this, shiny silver baby oiled up car with suspension that is rocking from side to side, but it's got the gull wing doors. It's got these so many different things about it, and there's just something still about them. So whatever kind of homage that they bring out to the DeLorean name, I hope they do kind of for history's sake as much as anything else, they bring out something that resembles what it was.
I wonder where's it being made.
I haven't heard. I think it's at the Tal Design crowd. They're part of it, so it could be anywhere. They've built some nice cars and some horrendous monsters of things at the Tal. So I may have read it's American produced.
Yeah. So we will keep an eye out, but I don't know. It's not going to be made in Dunmurry anyway.
Certainly not.
No, sadly not. Okay. Anything else for us that you've come across this week? Because I most of my time has been trying to avoid per hospital car parking, to be honest.
The only other things were that I was supposed to go out for a drive in a Taycan the last time that we spoke, which hasn't happened yet. But I did have a customer come in to visit me there one day last week, and he was in his Taycan, and when he was leaving it, I know electric cars are supposed to, but whatever sport button he pressed in his, there was like this deep, grumbly, low down noise, and it was just cool. It was just amazing. I see Pete down at PMG. He's had a couple of Taycans in for corrections, for detailing, for everything else. And he did tell me that one of his customers, it was a turbo. I don't even think it was the Turbo S model, but where we had talked about, the difference in his Model 3 performance versus even the i4 and the M50 that I had out.
Yes,
where it's just so much quicker. This customer took him out with the Taycan S or the Turbo and let him drive it. And Pete said it's frightening. Like, it just would embarrass his Model 3 performance.
Wow.
So he said it's just on a different level of speed again, which is baffling because I said, you've driven the Model 3 performance. I've driven it and been a passenger in it, and they're ludicrously quick. So they are. And that's not even the Turbo S. He says the only downside to it is that the 2 or 3 customers who be speaking to him regularly, they all said that range is a real issue with the Taycans, being 200 to 220 miles at the very most.
That's a shame. That's a shame because the Tesla will genuinely do 300 miles.
Yeah,
the performance or the long range will do.
Yeah.
In and that's hair of it, which is just so useful. But do you know what? I had a really good look around and hopefully due to get a run on it, a Audi e-tron GT. Really like those. Really like those. They are a big car, but they are an imposing presence. They're very cool.
They're the same. The platform share with the Taycan, don't they?
I would say so. I think it's probably all Volkswagen Audi group type stuff. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love the look of them. There's an RMS member has got one ordered and he's due to get it in the next few weeks, I think. So I'm really looking forward to he picks that up to go and get a driving it with him, because again, they look absolutely fantastic. And he told me he was able to get a fully loaded Audi cheaper than like the Carrera 4 Taycan. So again, it goes back to with Porsche, he certainly felt he was buying the name as opposed to buying the car.
I had the Yaris in for its first service last week with Toyota, and I realized I completely slept in. I don't know if we talked about, and I guarantee, I knew this car was available, and I could have put my name on the list, and I could have got the name down, and I didn't. I missed the boat with a GR86.
Yes,
completely missed the boat. I should have had. They were 30 grand, so cheaper than the Yaris. I think there was only 300 or 400 of them available, and that's it. And Toyota sold them in. Well, there's arguments over what the length of time was. Was it 40 minutes? Was it 90 minutes? But whatever it was, online they just went.
Wow!
And of course, I was in. And the salesman, chatting to the salesman in Toyota anyway, and he said, "How you find the Yaris and all the rest? And did you go for it?" Because they were taken out of the equation completely. The dealership network, it was just all done online. And did you get your name down for GR86? And I was like, "Don't talk to me." I was like, "I have other stuff going on. I have flipping family stuff. I have the Lotus coming. I have flipping, I've no need to be putting my name down for anything else." But limited run, manual, normally aspirated, and addressed all the issues with the GT86, slightly bigger engine and more torque and all the rest, and all me, front engine rear wheel drive, limited slip diff, manual gearbox. It's me to a T, and I just totally slept on it. Snooze, you lose. So I was, but the Yaris, 190 quid for its first full year service. And
wow,
didn't need a penny spent on it, and it hasn't needed anything this year. It had a pre-tensioner recall as part of the service, but apart from that, like, the car's been absolutely flawless, as you would expect with a with a
with
Toyota.
Toyota. Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, it's just a shame you can't buy Toyota. Do it right. You can't buy a GT4 the same way you can buy a GR Yaris. And people say, well, they're totally two different types of cars, but you don't need to have the dealership relationship. Toyota will sell the cars to anyone.
To anybody.
Of course, there's people taking advantage of that, buying 2 and 3 cars and all the rest. But generally, the enthusiasts can get a hold of them, and they don't have to be a collector or a serial buyer, But yeah, I missed the boat completely. But sure.
But
first world problems.
What's for you won't go by you.
You are 100%. But
I think that's me. There's nothing else really to for me to speak about. There was the ProDrive P25, but I'm going to let Gary speak about that the next time we're up the thing, because he put a post in RMS, and yeah, it's going to be another ludicrously priced car, but we'll let him speak about that one the next time.
100%. Like, and we're gonna get a guest on and stuff like that. It's just with my situation, the way things are, I don't know. Didn't even know I could do tonight, and it's great to have a chat, and hopefully we get. In fact, I was chatting to Jim McGill, and Jim McGill and his other half are currently driving across the States in a Volkswagen XL1. Have you seen this?
No. So
I'm going to put it in the show notes. There's actually an article on this on RMS. So this was like a sort of almost a prototype special that Volkswagen did in the sort of mid to late 2000s. It's like a 1 liter diesel thing.
Yes.
And but it's super high CD, so it's like does a couple of hundred mpg and stuff like that. And these guys are driving it coast to coast in the US, and they're from here,
Wow.
And Jim's taking all sorts of stuff over to. He's had pictures of a Northern Ireland registered Fiat Panda on the Golden Gate Bridge. Really random stuff. I just love that. So there's I want to get Jim on the show actually, and there's a good article on RMS. It's worth hopping on the forum and having a read at that story, because it's absolutely mad. There's a picture there of their XL1 in front of the that sort of lovely car park shot on the far side of the Golden Gate Bridge. So and they're raising money for Alzheimer's research. So good luck to them.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Some crack. So it is. But here, if you're done, I'm done. I'm getting out of here.
You better, because you read it. The clock is ticking for you, my man.
Absolutely. Look, this is a tail light warranty situation. So follow us, do all the things, get on the RMS forum, follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. We're at RMS Motoring everywhere. Ask us questions on those platforms. Ask us questions. Actually, on the forum is the place to do it as well. Drop me a PM, email me on RMS, email pod@rmsmotoring.com. But there's no warranty. This was sold as sing.